Hello, I'm Phil Mullen, energy psychotherapist, and this little talk is about the personal gauge, which I present as a deeper template underneath the thought fields. Now, the term thought field is from Roger Callahan's thought field therapy, the first of the acupoint tapping modalities, which originated way back in 1979. It's a very effective procedure. But is there something deeper below these thought fields? So for Callahan, the thought field was a constellation, a field of mind, of brain, of physiology, a field comprising the thought, the associated emotion, memory, and the associated physiology. And by tapping on particular acupoints in particular sequences, Callahan found that this thought field could be dissolved or dispersed. So the person becomes freed from the hold of that particular thought field, that attractor field that has held them prisoner. The landscape of mind space has been smoothed out. But there can be so many different thought fields. This anxiety, this trauma, that trauma, constellations of trauma, and so forth. Is there a deeper field below these surface level thought fields? And I'm calling this the personal gauge. Now, the gauge idea is borrowed from physics. In physics, this is one aspect of its meaning, that it refers to the set of physical rules inherent in the universe, whereby a system will organize itself and reorganize itself in order to maintain the laws of physics across contexts. So what I'm meaning by the personal gauge is like the set of rules that governs a person's thought, emotions, behaviour, bodily responses across different contexts. The personal set of rules. These are not rules that the person can consciously articulate, but they are there in the system. It's a little bit like psychoanalysts may talk about deeper psychodynamic templates or internal models of attachment, object relations, and so forth. I'm meaning something a little bit like that, but going a bit beyond that. A deeper set of non-conscious rules. So I draw a lot upon the theoretical framework of Elizabeth Rauscher and Richard Amoroso's Holographic Anthropic Multiverse model. And in this framework, our geometric experiential realm of matter and space, 3 dimensions of space and time, is subtended within a number of higher dimensions which are inherently invisible to us, not available to our senses. Higher dimensions, ultimately to this 12-dimensional manifold of the unified field that is continually pulsing order, pulsing coherence down the dimensions into this matter realm. So we're used to thinking of how at the quantum level, 0-point field level, there's a kind of randomness inherent. There's a probabilistic pattern, but an inherent randomness. Well, that's maybe true in one way, but in another way, there is this coherence and order that is being pulsed into our system from the unified field, the ultimate pilot wave, if you like. Now, one of the problems about trauma and repeated traumas is that it causes a curvature of our mental, emotional mind, curvature of our mind space. In just the same way that in the cosmos, massive black holes will cause a curvature of space-time. In mind space, you get this curvature. We get curled in and trapped within an attractor well of trauma and fear. We get cut off from the coherence pulses of the higher dimensions. And out of these kinds of formative experiences, you get the personal gauge developing, which might, for example, be organized on the principle that it is not safe to feel safe. It is not safe to feel calm. So that any potentially calming experience or activity will actually result in more anxiety because the gauge is set for anxiety. You have to be anxious to feel safe, paradoxically, if your gauge is set in that way. So there is this kind of order in the system. So the prevalent Copenhagen interpretation of the quantum realm refers to a quantum wave, but what's meant there is a mathematical wave, a mathematical probabilistic formula relating to what we observe when we attempt to measure what comes out of the quantum realm, whether it's a particle or a wave. But there is these other contributions to quantum theory, notably by David Bohm, but others as well, who see an underlying order in the quantum field. Bohm referred to the quantum potential, but he also referred to the pilot wave, an informational substrate that is guided and coherent, a wave of information, holistic information that is organized on the basis of information about the whole, potentially spreading across seemingly vast differences. Although at the quantum level, time and space do not exist in the way that we experience in our geometric experiential realm. And consciousness, our consciousness, seems to function as a coupling mode that links the world that we experience with the deeper level of the quantum realm. So in Bohm's formulation, the pilot wave is non-local. It's instantly encoding information about the entire configuration, potentially about the entire universe. It's a holistic informational function. And so each local pilot wave, like guiding a particular subatomic particle or a particular thought in our mind, each local pilot wave is a subset of a universal pilot field. The noetic field, the unified field, being like the pilot field of pilot field, the ultimate pilot field. A holographic carrier of universal information. And each act of healing or each coherent thought that any of us might have is like a local constellation, a local resonance within that universal pilot field. But trauma seems to capture the pilot wave of our thoughts. The pilot wave becomes trapped in a curvature well, like a black hole in mind space. The pilot wave becomes trapped like a goldfish in a bowl, just thoughts and emotions and memories swimming round and round and round, looping around. Healing procedures restore the gauge freedom, allows the gauge to be flexible. The pilot wave of any particular thought can reconnect with the 12-dimensional coherence field and re-establish non-local informational flow. So we might conclude from this that thought fields are the surface level expressions of deeper gauge field templates. The thought field is a constellation of the current thoughts, emotions, memories, and physiology. But the deeper template is the gauge field, the constellation of rules governing behavioral, emotional, and physiological outputs. And it's analogous to, akin to, David Bohm's active information, as he called it, the quantum level holistic patterning that generates the pilot wave. And so information organizes behavior, and disturbances in information produce dysfunction. So Callahan described the thought field as a constellation of thought, emotion, memory, and physiology, which is active in a person's mind at any moment. But that constellation is not primary. It's the surface expression of this deeper informational structure, the gauge field. Trauma rigidifies the gauge field, makes it rigid, inflexible. It fixes the gauge rather than allowing it to be flexible. Acupoint tapping introduces a small structured disturbance that temporarily loosens this rigidity, allowing the system to reorganize into a more coherent state. And this is why emotional shifts can be instantaneous with these energy methods, because we're not pushing energy as an energetic force. We are simply reorganizing information, and that can indeed be more or less instantaneous. And as we reconnect to higher coherence, our personal gauge can then shift. Thanks very much for listening.